Welcome back to France 24, live from Paris. Time now for business, joined by Matthew from the Business Desk. Thank you for coming in or joining us and giving us the details. Now, the government, Matthew, here in France, getting in a flap, you say, about a protest by some pigeons. What's this about?
By some pigeons, exactly. A group of entrepreneurs who have called themselves Les Pigeons. They've set themselves up because they're unhappy about tax proposals made in the government's budget last Friday. Now, why are they called Les Pigeons? Well, it translates both as pigeons, but also as the fall guys or mugs, because they feel they're being taken for a bit of a ride. When it comes to taxes, they say that this new proposals to put up capital gains tax is going to stifle new business creation in France. Well, they scored a bit of a victory on Thursday when they got a meeting with the French finance minister. The government's now saying that it's prepared to make concessions.
3 ministers, representatives from the business world and a handful of web startup entrepreneurs. They were round the table together for an emergency meeting at the Ministry of Finance. An attempt from Paris to appease small business owners, or the pigeons, worried about the capital gains tax.
You have to be willing to listen to such concerns, to act pragmatically, and to engage in dialogue. Sometimes you need to move forward, not hold back. Move forward in the right direction, of course. And when someone has legitimate concerns, you must listen to them, which is what we did.
The draft bill will now be tweaked. It had mooted a significant rise in capital gains taxes on equity sales. Now at 34%, they could go as high as 60%. These are the profits made from selling off a company. But if its owner decides to put that cash back into another project, this sum could be exonerated from the tax. Small business owners came out of the meeting slightly reassured.
The discussion was quite interesting. I think that they're going to go back over things. And they were concerned, I'll quote them, that there should be no prejudice against business owners. On the contrary, they want to encourage them.
Business representatives are planning to keep up the pressure on the government, keen to ward off what they see as a dangerous tax.
Everyone must understand that without capital, there can be no business. And if you're working with prohibitive tax rates on that capital, well, then business owners will simply go elsewhere.
Lobbying should continue on the internet. The movement has cancelled their protest march, scheduled for Sunday.
Staying with news here in France, and the country should avoid slipping back into recession, but not by much.
No, that's right. It will. The INSEE is the National Statistics Agency. They're saying that France will have 5 successive quarters of negative growth. It's already had a few. That means that overall growth will just be 0.2% for this year. They think unemployment will go up to 10.2% by the end of the year.
And how are the markets ending the week?
Well, unemployment is also going to be a big story for the markets today because the US will release its monthly unemployment report. Yesterday, markets there were in quite a good mood, up 0.5%. Should mention as well, Facebook shares, they managed a 0.5% rise on news the company now has 1 billion users. Over in Asia, let's take a look at markets there. Now, China's closed, they've got public holiday, but other markets are all managing gains as well, as you see there.
Moving back to the Eurozone now, and in Spain, many people are waiting with bated breath for another decision there.
That's right, in Spain, around Europe as well, and on the markets. Will they, won't they get this bailout? Yesterday, the head of the European Central Bank gave a not-so-subtle hint that Spain should think seriously about getting financial aid. He'll then be able to step in and buy bonds and lower borrowing costs for them. But on Thursday, Spain's finance minister was still insisting that the country will not seek a bailout.
A nudge from the European Central Bank president to take the help he's offering. At his monthly news conference, Mario Draghi praised Spain for its progress in reforming its banks and labour market, but his message to Madrid was clear.
We are ready and we have a fully effective backstop mechanism in place. Now it's really in the hands of governments, and as I said many times, the ECB cannot replace the action of governments.
But Mariano Rajoy is hanging on. With unemployment touching 25% and a €40 billion accent tax budget on the way, the Spanish Prime Minister is keen to avoid more pain for his voters. The country is still able to raise money on the bond markets. It sold almost €4 billion worth on Thursday at interest rates that were lower than recent sales. The Finance Minister, Luis de Guindos, stated that Spain doesn't need a bailout at all, a minority view shared by some economists.
If Spain gets a bailout with harsh terms, the country will face a situation worse than the bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers. I don't think Spain needs a full bailout, and the country's policies shouldn't be manipulated too much by the markets.
But there are many others who disagree, European leaders among them, with Spain's banks and indebted regions both in need of help, on the markets at least. The question has become when and not if Mariano Rajoy will seek a bailout.
And the topic of a Spanish bailout will likely be on the agenda at a meeting of the leaders of France, Spain and Italy today. The three will be meeting on the margins of a summit being held in Malta. Well, now let's get some of the day's company news. And strong smartphone sales at Samsung helped boost profits there by 85%. The South Korean electronics giant said earnings should total $7.3 billion in the latest quarter. Shares in Samsung have risen 62% in the last year.
Kingfisher Airlines in India has grounded its flights for another week. Workers are on strike after not being paid for months. Engineers are among those taking action. That's led the country's aviation authority to express concerns over safety standards.
And staying with air travel, passengers should be compensated if they're delayed more than a day by strikes. That's according to a ruling from the European Court of Justice. Judges were considering the case of a Finnair passenger who wanted compensation after a 2-day delay in 2006. His flight from Barcelona to Helsinki had been delayed by strike action.
Now, Matthew, it's a famous cinematic birthday today. Tell us more.
That's right. It's the International James Bond Day today. That's because the first film was released 50 years ago, 1962. Do you know what film that was?
I believe it was Dr. No, because I have been prepping on this subject.
Yes, well, there you go. It was Dr. No. And we're now up to 23 films. Skyfall will be the 23rd in the series. That will be out later this month, starring Daniel Craig. Do you know how many James Bonds there have been in total?
There's been quite a few. They've always had a soft spot for Miss Moneypenny, I believe.
That's right. I think that's right. And I think there have been about 8 actors playing the role, although it seems you get different views on that when you look online.
Now, the tourist authorities in Britain are trying to make the most, trying to cash in on this anniversary.
They are. They have created an advertisement which was also launched this week, trying to make the most of James Bond. There we can see some of it. This campaign is trying to sell the benefits of Britain and will be running all around the world, Germany, Australia, US, here in France as well.
Of course, it is very much in the headlines, given that he did participate in the London Olympics earlier this year. Now, finally, there's a large number of out-of-print books are soon to be available on the internet.
Yes, now Google has scanned 20 million out-of-print books. It says it wants to put all out-of-print books online, but it hasn't been able to because it's been in a legal wrangle with publishers and regulators in the US. Well, now, that will change, partially at least. It's reached an agreement that it can make these books available if publishers agree. Now, it won't be able to publish all of those books, but it will be able to do quite a few. But it will still be unlikely that Google will be able to challenge the dominant position of Amazon in the ebooks market.
OK, Matthew, thank you very much for all those latest details from the world of business. That's all we've got time for in this half hour of news. More headlines, though, after the break with Lorna. Do stay tuned to France 24.